Hello everyone, welcome back to Chaosville. It's been a little while. I have a lot to talk about today. As you can see, I've done quite a bit more work around here. So I have fully encased the magmatic engine system, which now has a full complement of its pipe gates. You can't see a bunch of them because the structural pipes there are quite happily connecting to basically any block around them, and that's caused them to become very obscured for the gates. But when the system is full of power, then it quite happily turns all of these engines off, saving us some lava. Not that we presently need to worry about that, because I've also upgraded the systems around here to their own separate thing. More or less the name of the game today is Separating Systems. That's technically a phrase. Anyway, so we can see it's currently storing a bunch of phosphor because it hasn't had to pump it out into the squeezers, so consequently it's all backing up and whatnot, which is fine, because we've got a fairly decent size ME storage cell in there, which is good enough to more or less only be storing sand and phosphorus, so that's good, and that's all making lava, which we have a full tank of. So basically what I've been spending most of my time doing is expanding the alvearies and clipping everything that I previously had into that one system over by the corner there at the end of the engine into their own separate little systems. So over here we have Nerf removed again, and she's sat next to our tanks for honey and seed oil, which I have a bit of a backlog for. The seed oil is more or less only used to make frames. The honey is only used to make the scented panels at the moment, so consequently it backs up quite a bit. But it's still being stored when we can't process any more of it. If I go over to the alvearies at the glorious 3 frames per second, but that's my next topic, I have expanded a few, so we've got one at the front here for the farmed bees, which make our seed drops. And then we have 2 alvearies, and back there we also happen to have a apiary, which are covering exotic bees. And exotic bees are the ones that create the silky combs, which then produce the silky propolis, which then produce the silk wisps, which then produce string, which we need for the impregnated frames that we use everywhere. And these two are connected to the frame system. I don't believe the farmed ones are. I probably should, because they kind of need them the most. But everything else is moving quite nicely. I also made some impregnable bees, which are the bees that produce titanium dust. They produce tiny piles of it. And I also got the what was it? The resilient bees going into lustrous bees, I think it was, or cinna, or maybe something like that. I can't remember. The sodalite bees, that was it. Because their sodalite combs produce sodalite dust and also aluminium dust, which we can then use to make more aluminium. Well, the sodalite we can. So that's all getting nicely done here. I've got some 7 titanium dust purely from the bees, which is good because we presently have nowhere to mine it. But in order to actually make that into a titanium ingot, I need to make it into an industrial blast furnace, which is another Greg Tech thing, so we're not covering that today, most likely. And basically our main job for today is hooking up the green system here, which is the makings of our user, our end-of-the-line storage user kind of interfacey section of the B-Lab, to the micro tree farm that I have over here. Oop, and I'm in that hole. Right, so down here I've put together a very simple kind of small little thing. It mostly uses jungle trees to make a bunch of wood on demand. So I need a level emitter over here, next to a redstone energy cell, which I haven't made just yet. That might not get done today because that takes ages. To allow the green system, which is again the storage system, to turn off the power going into this brown system, the tree making system, whenever it's got enough logs in its system. The brown system stores all of its saplings, stores some fertilizer that the green system gives it, And it currently stores all of its vines. I'm not sure what to do with those. But it outputs all of the logs into the green system, which needs it to make the impregnated frames and the alvery blocks and such. Uses them a lot, so I need this system. So what we have here is basically Mine Factory Reloaded. So I just come down here, we have planters, which are connected to a router, which is getting all of the saplings. So they're all getting evenly distributed. Yep, got a fair few here, because I had it running a while back. But that needs MJ, and if you apply a redstone signal to a redstone energy cell, it still receives power, but it doesn't output it. So we can use that as a sort of remote to turn the system off. Just then on either side here, we have some harvesters, which are aware that they're trying to get jungle wood, and it's currently got a bunch of sludge in it, but it doesn't really impact the system, and I don't really have any use for it, so I'm just kind of leaving it there. It's not shearing the leaves because this is a system that needs to keep getting saplings in order to keep going, because the jungle trees, if you have the 2x2 of jungle trees, as we can do here, then you get enough saplings to continue going endlessly. But if you only have the 1x1, your standard plunk of sapling and bone meal it, then you don't usually get enough saplings back to continue. And small shrooms, irrelevant to the system. So the main problem I get with this system is the massive build-up of vines. But that's not a huge issue right now. And I think I was at some point using an ME storage, but I think that was just to observe these. So let's see how it's doing. 459 of 1024 bytes, 1 of 63 types. That pretty much means it's holding vines. That's 439 bytes of vines there. And then the big thing that we have that makes this thing really work, whenever the system needs it, is this fertilizer. This machine tries to essentially bone meal any crop that's directly in front of it, but it needs mulch or fertilizer and whatnot to do it, and to make fertilizer, we are using the happy byproduct of our magmatic engine, ash. We have a lot of ash. We have like over 1,000 ash inside the system right now. So I'm combining that with a single piece, like 8 of those with 1 piece of apatite, to make 16 fertilizer. Which I've only just realized I can't show in my hands. Oh well. Well, quite a bit of fertilizer. So it's very cheap to make for us. So I'm using that being pumped. That's get pumps in here from the green system. Yep, there it is. It gets pumped in or crafted because, again, it needs to be crafted from the ash, so I've given Nerfa the recipe for it. And that just always works, and it will keep going until this thing is full, and this thing only actually operates when it has power. You can see that that red lightning bolt on the right-hand side. When that's out of power, which usually happens when it's been running for too long, then it just immediately stops whether or not it's got fertilizer. Currently, it's stopped because it has no fertilizer, because it's not connected to the green system. So, if we give it a fairly brief charge, more or less if you charge the system up and running to its capacity, and then just turn off the power connection immediately, you'll get a good couple stacks of logs. So it's pretty damn good. So it should serve very nicely for the B-Lab to autonomically create its impregnated frames. Which is good. Now, again, a few more things over here. I separated the actual lab area a bit more into a couple of different networks. So we've got the white network here, which is storing all of our serums. And if we just type in species here, that is all of the species that I have thus far isolated. So let's say that's 9, 18, 27, 36, 37 species. Including, funnily enough, so like the steadfast species. Steadfast is really hard to get. You only find them in dungeons, you don't normally find them in pairs either, so you'll find like a princess, usually just a drone. I have never found one, as it happens, but Nipty had one just hanging around, so I talked with him, and he agreed to just hand over his steadfast drone because he didn't have a use for it. The very first serum I go through on it with the isolator, steadfast species. So I've actually still got that drone. In fact, I can probably find it inside of the yellow section here, which is holding all of my bees. Yep, there is the steadfast drone. Not particularly exceptional itself, doesn't have any particularly useful traits or any particularly useful effects, but if we breed it with, I think it's the Valiance, then it becomes heroic, which has the heroic effect. The heroic effect gives you, well, attacks hostile mobs around it, and it can also be used to breed a few more things that we're going to need, such as the classical bees, which create royal jelly faster than the Imperials. And just under here, under these storage buses, I have a bunch of apiaries, most of which are getting full, actually, so I need to do something with that. And the storage bus lets me store all of them without having to make a new, without having to worry about making more and more storage cells, which is good, because I'm a little low on quartz at the moment. And also it lets me see all of these things that are stacked, because they don't stack as high as this inside of the actual boxes. So that is good. So, on to what I imagine you're all like waiting guardedly for. The FPS. Well, I'm getting about 2, maybe 3 frames per second right now. But I'm recording this Tuesday. It's going up the day after, Wednesday. So, this is the day after Monday. I'd be surprised if any of you didn't know that. But, that's important because Monday, was rather the head of a bit of an interesting conundrum for me, which was that there was a bit of a mix-up with Aria and the repair, or rather the return of Elemental's motherboard. I'm sure some of you have already heard this from my Twitter and whatnot, but here's the story. Now, when I originally sent the motherboard back to Aria for review and testing and whatnot, I knew when it got there, and I heard that it was undergoing repairs. It was undergoing testing, rather. And then I didn't hear anything at all for about a month, despite emailing them rather incessantly. So I called them up on Friday, last Friday this is, to just see, hey, what's going on? You kind of have my expensive motherboard that a bunch of, like, really, really kind and friendly people paid for. And I found out that it had been fully tested with a review of no faults found, which was a bit of a mixed response from me, because it meant that I still had no idea why it wasn't doing anything when I had it. And it just, they hadn't really ever told me this, so I organised for it to be sent back, and I waited a few more days. Well, that was Monday that I called them. So they told me the latest I would have it back would be Wednesday. So I waited, and Wednesday came, and there still wasn't any sign of my motherboard. So I called them again on Friday, just to go, hey, you kind of said that this expensive piece of equipment that I've been waiting over a month for was going to be sent here, where is it? And then apparently, I found out that apparently it had never actually been set up for delivery. So the very kind person on the other end of the line set everything up, and made sure that it was all getting sent out and everything. I feel like we might as well try and make this go in line with the actual engine. That would do nicely, I think. Which means digging a hole this way. So I then get a message after that it will be delivered by noon Monday, or between noon and 1 o'clock Monday, which was fine, except that the address that they were sending it to was my uni house, which is unoccupied right now, and I don't have the keys for. So I then frantically sent them several dozen emails and messages and whatnot, and tried to phone them up again, to sort out the fact that they're sending it to a place where no one will receive it, and no one can actually receive their calling cards to say, hey, you tried to deliver this, can I have it? And I don't get any response, but it's early days at that point, so I just kind of sit on it for the weekend. And then Monday rolls around, and I'm still waiting on some response of any kind. And then I find out, I get some response back from the customer services department saying, yeah, yes, we can change the delivery. Unfortunately, we can only change it to neighbor or hold it in the depot and stuff. So I say, yes, please hold this in the depot. I will come and get it. And then I start getting messages telling me that the motherboard has actually been delivered. Which wasn't really even the worst part of it, because I also found out that apparently it was signed for and received by someone who signed for it as Ray-Ban. Now, as someone who has watched Hancock several times, I'm aware that Ray-Ban is a make of sunglass. So this immediately started triggering alarm signals. Plus it's Middlesbrough, which has a bit of a dodgy reputation, shall we say. And so consequently, I was getting a bit worried. Is there any cabling here I can use? There is this 8... Actually, I don't need any of that, so let's just go 3 of that and 5 of this. So we can strip that down. So I was getting very worried, and I was trying to contact anyone I could to find out what was going on. I need to cook some cactus. Couldn't find out a thing. All I ever heard back was, "It has been delivered, sir." So my mum very graciously offers to take me into Middlesbrough so we can try and hunt it down. Sort of last chance attempt to catch the thing. And we get there, and Oop. Hello. What's this? Oh, it's an angry zombie. You done? I don't know where they keep spawning, but that's the second one that's just kind of crept up on me. And that's lightning, that always creeps up on me. But anyways, we knock on the door. I can't get through to my my uni house, so we knock on the immediate neighbours as well, and we can't get a response out of them either. So we're getting a bit worried at this point. So I hop around to one of my... well, the card shop that's directly around the corner from my old uni house, so that I can see if one of my housemates, as lazy as he is still around, so he might have seen something or have keys to it to get, so I can get the calling card or something. Turns out he left ages ago, so we then have to drive quite a ways, actually. I was surprised at how far away it was to get to the delivery company's depot, which is much less useful than our depot here in Monroeville. Oh, look, we got a brain. I got so many of those with this looting. To their depot, to talk to them, to see if we can find out anything, basically, like, whether they still have it, because I started to consider that maybe Ray-Ban was their code for no delivery returning to depot or whatever. We need a few more. We need 3 more pieces of cable. Ain't that a surprise? So we get there, and they more or less say the same thing for quite a while, until I mention the expense that was gone through with this particular piece of equipment. And then they started sort of rapidly trying to hunt it down. So they check all of the files, and they're as unconvinced as I am when they realize that Ray-Ban is a make of sunglasses. So they managed to contact the driver who delivered it, because they send you the name of the driver that's ostensibly carrying your package when they let you know when it's going to be picked up. So I presume they have some kind of database of who delivered what. For situations exactly like this, when something is misdelivered. So then, they managed to find out that it was signed for by M. Ray-Ban, who I now realize was probably called something closer to Ray-Ban. And we need to pop back to... yeah, I think we need to pop back to the mall, so I can pick up some more wire, and also I need a level emitter. But yeah, anyways, so we then find out that it was a number of the house that was 2 doors down from my actual house, rather than the immediate neighbour that you might suspect. So we go all the way back to my uni house, well, my former uni house. I won't be in the same place next year. And we knock on that door. The immediate sign of life is that there is the sound of a gigantic hound behind the door. So I figured that was a good sign, assuming the dog hadn't found the package. No, we don't want that one. We want that one. And a guy comes out, looks sort of late, middle age, sort of common, kind of Middlesbronian, for want of a better term. That's not the best term, I guess, given my particular social circles and whatnot. With fewer teeth, probably, than his own IQ. But he's seemingly dull-witted. Not to insult anyone, but he did not seem the brightest of chaps. But he did definitely have my parcel, which he quite happily agreed to and handed over. And it was perfectly untouched. So far from having to wait a bunch more time to actually get anything, we're going to need 8 of this, I don't recall how many that makes. He handed over, and so far from having to wait maybe another week to get my motherboard and whatnot, and actually getting my motherboard was a nice thing, he handed over, and I got my motherboard for Elemental back. Next, this is where this story comes to an actual, like, positive note. Next, I plugged it in today. I wasn't expecting too much, I'll grant, because it hadn't worked beforehand, and then it had returns with no faults, ostensibly. So I was reasonably certain it wasn't going to work again, and I have to try and get my dad to give it a look, because he can't really escape me right now, because I'm in his house. Plugged it all in, followed the guides, the installation guide, manual, whatever, to its absolute fullest, attached a power supply, and pushed the button, and it works. I don't know how, but the motherboard now actually works. So consequently, this means I just need to attach a few more things and install a whole ton of software, which I can't really do in like under a week, because I don't have that much going on right now. I'm learning Japanese, and that's the most enduring thing I'm having to do in this. And then everything will be nice and dandy, and Elemental will be fully functional, and you can pretty much guaranteed kiss these FPS issues goodbye. Which is absolutely fantastic. And where is the rest of our cable? What's that taking that so long? It's having to grind it up, apparently. Dupe. Nothing's in the macerator. Has it just gone hung up? Let's see, add fiber. Strange. It's just gone hung up on the dust for some reason. Click that. Make glass. So yeah, that'll be good. I actually got a comment on one of my older videos today, which I then read through the rest of the comments on, and just to try and get some context. It was a lag issue. What do you know? The comment itself. But then I noticed a comment that said something to the effect of "Can't wait for when you get your new PC," and then half of the comments beneath it were also about my FPS issues. But now we can finally potentially kiss those problems goodbye. Judging by that video, that was about 2 months ago, so that's good. Once again, thank you so much to everyone that donated. You have been an absolute godsend. I'm sorry it has taken so tremendously long to sort this out. But thank you very much. And so consequently, I shall craft this up, and we can have some cabling. We only need 3 of these, so 1, 2, 3. Chuck those back in. And I'm going to need at least 1 of those converted back, I think, so we can start to make the level emitter. Level emitter, there we go. Okay, and so cook that up, and consequently that means I shall be ending this episode fairly shortish, because we're hitting about 25 minutes here. Thank you very much for your continued support. Definitely I'll be working more on the donator buildings in the episodes to come. I'm hoping to start a whole bunch of new series and get a whole bunch more things going, now that I have the technology, so to speak. So it's an exciting time. A very interesting story, but an exciting time. So, I shall catch you all next time.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and or favorite, follow me on Twitter, and subscribe to be notified of future updates. You can also check out the website where most other content is uploaded. That's all for now, catch you later.